Hello and welcome to Game Brain, a board gaming podcast about our gaming group. My name is Matthew Robinson. Joining me today is one of my absolute favorite people in the entire. Oh wait! Oh, it's Paul. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I thought
'cause
we had something totally different on
I
today.
thought Ben was here or something. I was like, oh wow, well,
Oh,
I thought it was just gonna be the two of us. Okay, well,
never
that's
mind.
cool.
I
That's
thought
fine
we were
too.
gonna have. I thought we were gonna have a better guest, but it's just Paul. Everybody, it's just the wonderful Paul Satache.
Hi, and the crowd goes silent.
How you doing, buddy? Good to see you, man.
Hey, I'm doing good enough, trying to survive the LA heat right now.
Yeah, we're in the
Uh,
midst of the second week of a pretty historical record-breaking heat wave in late March here in Los Angeles. It's currently over 100 degrees where I am in the valley.
oh wow, no, like on the other side of the hill, like I think we're all the way up to like 70. No,
Yeah, there's a big temperature discrepancy depending on if you live in the valley or on the other side of the hill, as they say it, which sounds a lot like the wrong side of the tracks when you're talking about the valley, but
Yeah,
um,
no.
it's
Actually, my
quite hot.
place is really weird because it's fine until like 3:52, and then there's this like
Ooh,
huge switch where all the brick decide like, no, let's radiate inside. The
yeah,
outside is gonna be cooler. We're gonna radiate inside, and you die now.
yeah. That's
So
why you have to like get it really cool before that so it can like
sure,
build up.
sure. Yeah, no, it's
Um, Anyway, this is not a weather podcast. This is a board gaming podcast. And today, Paul and I are going to be talking about a game that we love very much. It is called Star Trek Captain's Chair. We're going to get into that in a little bit. It's a wonderful iteration on the system designed by Nigel Buckle and David Turksey that they used previously in the Imperium series, Classics and Horizons. Really cool system. We'll get into all that. We're going to talk about the differences between Star Trek Captain's Chair and the first iterations of the system. We're going to talk about how Star Trek Captain's Chair may improve upon them, maybe worse in some areas, how it plays solo, how it plays multiplayer. We're going to get into all of it. It is, to me, one of the most exciting games, both in the solo and the multiplayer sphere. So I'm excited to get into that.
wow.
Um, yeah, I know. Big. It's big, Paul. It's big. It's a big episode, Paul. It's really
It
big.
was yeah, it was on our best of 2025 that you and I we put up on there.
Yeah, we had it high up there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, before we get into that, let's talk about some recent plays we've had. Paul, what have you played recently that's on your brain or that you're hoping to play again?
Well, we played what was that monster game? The
Primal the Awakening.
Primal the Awakening. Yes. I played that before. I played it again with you guys. I was surprised on how much it holds up and how much you guys didn't blame me for anything that went wrong. I thought that was really great.
Well, famously, people choose not to play co-op games with Paul because Paul has a tendency to play co-op games as multiplayer games where only one person can win, or at least to check the system to see if there are any guardrails for that in it. And often in co-ops there are not, and it can lead to some bad experiences or memorable experiences, as Paul would
No,
call
no,
them.
always memorable.
So yeah, Primal is a giant, big box, huge box. Big doesn't quite cover it. Huge box, and it's a boss battler, cooperative boss battler, meaning that it's you and some friends fighting bosses. And unlike games like Kingdom Death Monster or Aeon Trespass Odyssey or Kingdoms Forlorn, this is just a boss battler. All those games are boss battlers where you do some other stuff. Um, Primal is just a boss.
Yeah.
I actually bought this game because it lacks a campaign. Okay, it has a campaign, but I have not heard great things about it. What I have heard great things about is the experience of the mechanics, the card play, the bosses, the different way the bosses play. And it was pitched to me as a game that you could pick a boss, pick four characters, get some friends together who've never played it before, fight that boss, and then call it a night. And nobody has to level up or come back next week or never finish a campaign. And that sounded awesome to me. How do you think it lived up to those expectations, Paul?
I think it met expectations. I think I came in. I think Carluca came in. Trey came in, and we played a boss, and it was It was a super easy boss. It was the intro boss. It was the aperitif boss.
Tutorial boss, yeah.
Yeah, and we did all right. I don't think it was necessarily easy. I don't think we were gonna die at any point, but
Right.
it gave us the flavor, and I think the flavor was worthwhile.
Yeah, it didn't blow my socks off either, but I also enjoyed it. And it's also hard. It's always hard to tell how good a game is just based on the tutorial boss, which is all I played so far and all we played. Um, it has similar mechanics to a game I love, which is Marvel Champions, where it does that play a card by paying with other cards thing, which I
Mhm.
always think is really fun. You have like a hand of 5 cards. You're going to maybe play 2 of them and you're going to use the other 2 as the resource to pay for those cards. I always think that's a really fun balance. Um, it has a really cool the way that so like the biggest thing in any boss battler to me is what's the mechanic of how I'm fighting and then what is the mechanic of how the boss is fighting me. And this one might be my favorite I've played so far.
Really?
Most use like a an AI deck, right? Where
Mhm, mhm.
you're
Sure.
just okay, everybody's taking their turn. Now we draw the top card of the boss and see what the boss is going to do to all of us. And it'll be varying levels of awful. This one sort of puts it in the player's hands where there is an AI deck, but you have a sort of a face-up market of a few different cards in that deck. And on the backs of the cards are symbols. And those symbols are things that you can do on your turn or you may do on your turn. And if you do those things on your turn, it will then trigger the boss to react. So
Yeah.
you know exactly what will cause the boss to hit you, and you can decide if it's going to hit you or not. Now, of course, a lot of those icons on the back of the cards are things you're going to naturally be wanting to do, like attack or
Sure, sure.
block or move, things like that. So you know what's going to trigger them, and you can actually start really anticipate. Like the game is meant to be to the point where you can kind of memorize what those cards will
Mhm.
do, and sort of like Monster Hunter or even KDM or other boss battlers, you'll be fighting the same boss a lot. That's the idea behind it is just to get really used to fighting these bosses and to crank up the difficulty of which you can change the difficulty quite easily in the game from I think there's like 5 different levels of difficulty. Um, but you start to really know what those cards are and know how to combat them and when to combat them. Now we had none of that knowledge going in, but it was still really cool to sort of know like, okay, I don't want to get hit this turn. My health's getting a little low, so I'm just going to avoid all the things that I know will cause me to get hit, and then I won't, and then I'll
Sure.
let somebody else get hit for a little bit. I thought that was really cool. That's fun.
It's like
Yeah,
jujitsu versus a monster.
it did kind of remind me of jujitsu in a weird way, which is also we don't need to get into that, but something Paul has gotten me into. I've taken up jujitsu in the last 4 months. Paul's been doing jujitsu for like 10 years, if not longer.
Like 3, but
Yeah. No, but didn't you say you did it? You did? Did
I
you do a different martial art back?
I've done several other martial arts. The
Okay.
one, that, Chuck Norris did before he died yesterday,
Mm.
uh, uh, but, like, yes, like, I've been doing jujitsu for the last 3 years now because it is the least impact on my joints.
Mm.
Ironically, it is the one that attacks my joints.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I've after 4 months of doing jujitsu, I'm not sure I would say it's been easy on my joints at all, but maybe compared to other martial arts. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like, if you have to stand up and kick a lot, that's gonna wear on your joints,
Right.
like, in jujitsu, you're being attacked at your joints, so if you could defend your joints, then you're gonna be better off than, like, if just the sheer act of kicking is going to do damage.
So much like the AI deck in Primal, you decide when you're
See,
going to hurt your own joints.
it's all comes
Brilliant,
back. It all comes back.
brilliant. Another fun game that we've sort of gotten into, which I don't think we've ever talked about on this podcast, is a new card game called Soothsayers. I saw a review of this. It might have even been the Dice Tower or something, where it was described as Carl Chuddick meets Tom Lehman. Carl Chuddick, famously known for Innovation and Glory to Rome, and Tom Lehman, most famously known for Roll for the Galaxy or Race for the Galaxy. Um, and those are two of
Oh,
my favorite designers, especially when it comes to card games.
I didn't realize that
And
about the race. I didn't realize that.
yeah,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
similar,
okay.
right? And
Yeah,
it
yeah,
used
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
so Soothsayers is a 2 to 5 player card game designed by Jeff Grisenthwaite. And it is a highly interactive tableau building game with a lead follow mechanic, which is very similar to Glory to Rome or Race for the Galaxy,
Hmm.
in which we all start with a tableau of 4 different action cards. They all do the same thing. And on your turn, you're going to pick one action card, and then you're going to lead, meaning you're going to do the sort of the good action, and then everybody else can follow and take a weakened version of that action. There is a fun aspect of it wherein you can start leveling those actions up, and if somebody's a lower level than you in that action, they have to pay you money in the difference of the level number between yours and theirs in order to follow, which is a cool addition to sort of the lead follow thing. But there's also these rule breaking tarot cards. So the theme of the game is kind of tarot
Sure.
tarot cards. I don't.
It's
That's the
it's
theme, I
it,
guess.
that's what they look like.
Yeah, and like the tokens are called fate tokens. And so underneath each of your 4 action cards in your tableau, you can assign a tarot to them, and they will augment the actions or sometimes give you rule breaking actions or sometimes give you different ways of scoring points. The game is a race, meaning very similar to Res Arcana in terms of like, or Race for the Galaxy, where the game ends when you hit a certain amount of points. Oh, I guess Race for the Galaxy is when the points pool goes empty.
Yep.
So yeah, you're racing to a certain amount of points, which is different based on player count. And one of the main ways you get those points is by having the highest level of an action in your tableau. So there are 4 different actions. They level up through a card market that you're buying cards from. So if I'm the first person to get to level 2 and everybody's at level 1, I put a fate token, one of the points, on that card. But then if somebody levels it up to level 3, they steal it from me, and back and forth. So you're racing and fighting and wrestling. And this also, I was actually thinking how much this felt like jujitsu to me, just in the sense that it does feel like a wrestling match, wherein it's like,
Sure.
okay, I'm going to loosen my grip on this arm here because I think then I can get my leg over here and put you into a worse position. But I know I'm weakening this area here, and I'm hoping you won't fully take advantage of that. There's a lot of this sort of back and forth. The scoring in the game is very low,
It's
and you don't
dynamic.
have to count. Right, but you're constantly shifting. It's like, oh, this turn I'm 1 point away, and then by the time it's your turn again, I am now back to 1 victory point because
It's
everybody knocks me down.
no, it's fun. It was really fun. Like I don't love Race for the Galaxy, which is sacrilege, I suppose, for most people. But like
Mhm.
now that you say it, I go like, oh, it takes the things that I like about race. The that follow mechanic in a way that I go like, oh, this is I didn't put my finger on it how familiar it felt until you just said it. So I thought that was
Yeah,
good.
yeah, and also like it's also it seems even more similar to Glory to Rome to me, just in the sense that there's also this tableau of like rule breaking asymmetric powers, which is what the tarot cards are. And it's always fun to see what's going to come out, and they are pretty powerful and game defining. And so like chasing after those feels similar to me in sort of the Glory to Rome aspect of like all those wacky weird cards coming out that like, or even in innovation where it's like, oh my god, well now you've got a card that totally warps the game and we all have
Mm.
to like work against to
Address.
stop
Yep.
you. Yeah, we all have to deal with it.
Yeah.
um it's a pretty cool game. It's also like pretty affordable. I think it's like a $30 game. It's pretty cheap. It's, it's just cards
It's on
and a couple
BGA.
tokens. And that's what I was going to say next. Yeah, it is totally available to play on BGA, and a really great implementation of it there. I recommend. I mean, like if you're like me and like I will pretty much buy any Carl Chuddick and Tom Lehman game site unseen if they are card tableau builders, because I just love the way they design those kinds of games, and I love those kind of games. I think they kind of do it better than anybody. I really recommend you check out Soothsayers. It's sort of the first time I felt a game really got close to what those two designers do. And I don't know, I think some people at our table were saying they like it even more than like you were saying about Race for the Galaxy. People seem to maybe think he sort of sanded down some of the edges of some of those games too.
I think the way that I would describe this game is like it gets to what it wants to be really quick. In the same way that we
Yeah.
talk about like Avalon and other like games that are elegant.
Hmm.
And I found like, oh, by round one, I know how the flow of the game is, and by round two, I go like, oh, I see where the game is.
Yeah.
Like, and just watching that dynamic point exchange, is really fun. And we played 4 player, we played 3 player, and they
Hmm.
play differently just because of how much lag you get from knowing, oh, I'm at 4, I'm just 1 point away from winning. Now there's 3 people who can like take your throne versus,
Yeah.
so, um
And you were
like
quite good at it. You won almost every time we played, I feel like.
like uh, it's one of those games where like very quickly Trey goes, "Oh, don't Paul it, Paul."
What does "don't paul it" mean
uh,
in regards to this?
I think like the thing that I tend to do in like games like this, especially if there's a tempo attack, is I'll play the tempo attack. So,
Mhm.
like, oh, like in the first game, I was just buying tokens because, oh, I got 7, I could buy this.
Right. So yeah,
I
there's one aspect of the game where you're earning points, like I said, by trying to have the highest levels of tarot cards or action cards. But then there's also just a market where there's like 6 fate tokens up for sale at escalating costs. So like the first one's 7, then 14, then 21, things like that. And so those aren't going to help build your tableau or make you better, but they are victory points. And yeah, in your first game, you were just like, what if I just focus on getting money and buy all those? Do I just win? And yeah, I think you did if nobody
no,
else
no,
is
no, no, I
trying to
didn't. I
stop it.
didn't.
Oh,
I
you
didn't.
didn't. That's right.
I did because we played it slightly wrong. But like it was one of those things where
That's right. You would
uh,
have.
it was one of those things where I don't think everyone grasped the push and pull of it quite yet. I think our group tends to go, oh, let's make an engine
Yeah.
as a whole. Like I think we go, oh, let's make an engine, and I go like, let's see if I can like be faster than Dimitri at getting.
Yeah. And it's good to always sort of stress test a game with both of those sort of
Mhm.
like, let's do the hare and the turtle here and see how it affects the game.
Yeah, no,
Um, it's really cool. I really recommend. It sort of took me by surprise. It's quick. I think it's my favorite new game I played this year. It's also like 30 minutes
yeah, it does
at
not
most.
overstay. It does not
No,
overstay. That's what I
no.
really liked about it. Like, oh, I know what this is. It delivers what's supposed to, and then it gets out. And so you want to play
Yeah,
again? That's great, but you know exactly what's supposed to be. So I think it would be a good like advanced intro game to a non-gamer. It might not be the first game but someone who got their first game, but oh, I like games, and then this would be
yeah.
the next step.
100%. Like you could not. I would not try to teach innovation or Glory to Rome or Race for the Galaxy to a new gamer. It
Yeah,
would just be like too much. But you could 100% bring this out with your parents or
sure.
with your non-gamer friends, and I think they'd get it pretty quick and kind of be taken aback by it. And actually, it'd be a great jumping on point to be like, do you want to play a slightly more complicated, crazy version of this? It's
Hmm.
called Race for the Galaxy, and it's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Oh, that's good. Uh,
Um, that's Soothsayers. What else have you been playing? You play more games than me because you don't
this week has
have
not been.
children.
I don't have children. That's the game of life. We've chosen
That
different
is,
paths. Like
yeah.
hopefully, if you invested in
We're
this
playing.
track,
Yeah, exactly. It's the turtle and the hare, but for life here, and
that's
I am definitely the turtle with my
well, I mean,
family.
like, but in this case, like, you have a strong end game,
That's right.
like, because, like, they'll pay you back, hopefully, unless you
Yeah,
mess up the engine. Whereas I have to,
that's
like,
right.
acquire all the points now.
To survive the end game, yeah, you've
And,
got to have like a really good, like strong start. You got to have a full
uh,
like, and I'm
that's
I'm
right.
sort of playing a ramp deck.
100%. I'm playing full aggro, full aggro.
Yeah, you're like a full red deck, and
Yeah,
I'm like a white and a black deck, maybe.
uh,
Yeah.
so the thing that I'm doing this game that I did game adjacent this week that I thought was pretty fun. In retrospect, like during it, it's like it was a pain in the ass. Was I applied for the Traitors?
Wow. Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, at the end of
Like the
like
U.S. version, not the
it,
U.K. one, or
the
both.
U.S. civilian version. So this next season
Okay.
will be civilian. Is
Oh,
shooting
they have
in
celebrity ones. Yeah. Okay.
is shooting in June or May June, and and today is the deadline. I did early, so I submitted it on Tuesday, but it was
Hmm.
pretty interesting as to
It's like a
uh,
video thing. Like, hey, I'm Paul, and let me tell
there
you
is
about my life.
that aspect, like uh yeah, and then there's like 10 questions that were very interesting as far as like having me reflect on who I am as a gamer and how I
Mm.
approach things. It was very interesting, and
You
it
would
was
be you would be fantastic. They should 100% get you because you would be a great just personality on the show as well.
it is this thing where I go like from the moment that what you call it, they announced that they were casting, I've gotten tons of people going like, "Oh, you should do it, Paul. You should do it. You should do it."
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the finale that I go like, "I'm going to do it." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Like, I don't know if I'm going to get anywhere because like they have so many applicants, but I felt good about my application, which is something
Yeah.
that I don't always feel good about when I throw my name in the ring.
I love that. I don't think anybody would have the combination of traits that you have in terms of being like a lovable teddy bear that everybody feels safe with and everybody likes hanging out with and everybody like
Mhm,
really like thinks is a great addition to whatever like team they're on.
mhm.
But then will just stare in shock as you stab them in the back in the coldest, meanest, cruelest way possible.
Yeah,
And
no,
they'll
no.
still like you somehow,
Yep.
but they'll be
No,
like, I did not see that coming.
no, I have a nuanced relationship with the truth in a game
Yeah.
scenario.
And morality in a game scenario too. Yeah.
Just so you know, you made the video.
Oh yeah. How's that?
Yeah,
How did I make the video?
well, I recall I recounted like one of my favorite moments of Avalon, where
Mm,
basically you had to choose between me or Tom. It was the very end. It was last minute. Do you believe me or do you believe Tom? And I was sitting next to you, and I turned to you and I nod and I go like, Matt, I'm good.
yeah.
And Tom's across there go like, don't do it, Matt, don't do it. And then like reveal like, oh yeah, Matt, of course I'm a bad guy. And then you go, uh, Paul, I think you actually hurt our relationship.
Yeah. This will carry on outside of this game. Yeah, that can happen.
so
That can
uh
absolutely happen.
so yeah, but I thought that was really fun. Everyone should apply or not. I don't know, but like if
No, you
you
don't need the competition.
yeah.
All right. Everyone should tune in next year for Paul's season of
It,
Traitors.
I'm remarkably optimistic in a way. Like, oh, like
Sure. It's their loss if they don't pick you. I think we all know
thank
that.
you, thank you, and feel
You're
free
welcome.
to say that as much as you can. And if anyone knows any casting people, just let me just tell them like, hey, look at that
Yeah.
Paul
Well,
guy.
off air, you'll have to tell me who produces it because I could probably check into that and see if I know somebody there.
Okay, great.
I will talk about my favorite game I've played with my family, which is
Oh,
new. And
okay.
I'm kind like, look, we know I love Hot Streak. We know I love Magical Athlete. They're great games. But I've had such a fun. I've always been trying to get my kids. I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, 8-year-old boy, 6-year-old girl. I've been trying to get them into more narrative driven games. And
Interesting.
I've struggled with that because I would like to have more alternatives to the television in
Hmm.
terms of like story based
Hmm.
and I love narrative based games, and so I've tried a few different things with them. There's a game called Cora Quest, which my son got really into, but my daughter never really liked. We've tried some other like smaller story based games. None of them were sort of like ones I would play normally. And then I saw a review for a game called Cozy Stickerville,
Well,
and
how
my
can you go
daughter,
wrong with that? How can you go
I
wrong?
know,
It's in the
but
title.
my daughter is a sticker fiend, obsessed with stickers. Like that's her jam is stickers. So I was like, oh, I'll get her with the stickers and we'll see if I can get them to stick around. So Cozy Stickerville is what's hilarious. It's designed by Corey Kineskia, who's most famous for designing Battlestar Galactica, which is like one
Wow,
of
wow.
our favorite board games
It,
ever.
it was our intro game. That's right.
He also designed Forbidden Stars.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
he also designed Imperial Assault, Gears of War, Mansions of Madness, Warcraft the board game, Starcraft the board game. I mean, like he is Star Wars Outer Rim. He was one of the designers on TI4. I mean,
This guy's a
he's like
goat.
the king.
Yeah, he's a goat.
He is absolutely a Mount Rushmore Ameritrash designer. Um, and so, he makes very complicated dice rolling, mini forward, great interactive, heavy Ameritrash games. And he's done some of the best. And so I was like, that's hilarious that he's now
Yeah, no, sure.
and apparently he's retiring from gaming, and this is his last design,
The
which
sticker
is
game.
Cozy Stickerville, from the designer of Battlestar Galactica, the meanest board game ever
that should
made.
literally be the like from the design of Battlestar Galactica, Cozyville.
Cozy Stickerville.
Yeah.
So Cozy Stickerville is a very similar to sort of farming games like Stardew Valley, wherein you are being it's quite similar to Stardew Valley. If you know,
Mhm.
even like the story is very similar. Like your uncle or grandfather, whatever, like leaves you a farm and tells you to move out there and says good luck. And so on your turn, you are basically, this is a flipping event deck game. Like you're just flipping an event deck and it says, basically gives you choices. Like, do you want to build, uh, you know, uh, this building, which will be good for fighting fires, like a fire station, or do you want to build a
Mhm.
restaurant? And you're like, okay, that's fun. And then you start going down these branching paths as like things happen, like you chose to build the restaurant, and then 3 cards later, like there was a fire in town, like lose 3 wood. You're like, oh, that's a bummer. But then your restaurant will give you some perks. And then you start adding people to the town. Like, do you want to add this lovely little elderly couple, or do you want to add Wild Bill? And of course, my children are like, Wild Bill.
Yeah, no.
And then Wild Bill starts stealing your chickens. And then you have to decide like what to do with Wild Bill. And then like you start going down these really fun sort of legacy-esque, campaign-esque paths
Oh.
wherein you don't really, and there's also a resource thing. Like you have to build a certain amount of trees because every round you'll get wood from your trees. You have to build a certain amount of fruit trees so that you get food because you have to pay for your people. So it's a game. It's not just like a
Oh,
choose
yeah,
your own
yeah, yeah,
adventure,
sure, sure.
but then mixed with that resource management game is like this really great choose your own adventure wherein you are my family was laughing hysterically at some of the things that were happening in the game and the choices and like it, I won't say
Mhm,
you're making like moral decisions, but you're making taste decisions. Like, do you want to add this cat? Or do you want to add this dog?
mhm.
Like some of the choices like that. But then like they have serious story implications because then like, oh, if you didn't add a cat, then you won't be able to build this building later on because the cat was necessary as one of the things to build that building. And then it locks you out of this whole story route. And then like there's also just like you're trying to get people to fall in love, very much like Stardew Valley. It's like you have to pick somebody for these two people to like meet, and then you start having to go through these quests to like fulfill them things and put them in the right scenario so they get married. And if they get married, then these other buildings open up, and it's all done with this giant book of stickers that you're being told turn to is sticker 47 on page 3, et cetera, et cetera. It's really fun. You're building this, this really cool giant farm village world on a
Mhm.
map. Now, it's a game that is disposable because once you get to the end of 10 sessions, and we're about halfway done with the set with our first, we're about on the session 6 out of 10 right now. We'll probably finish it this weekend because we just started like a week ago, and that's how much we've been playing. Each session is maybe like 45 minutes to an hour, so think of it as like a 10-hour campaign. And then once that's over, you can flip the board over and play one more time. So you can do the 10 campaign. And like I was explaining with like the choose your own adventure paths, you'll play a completely different game by choosing different things. Um, so once you've played it twice, that's it. Then it's just a memory that you had. And you can't, it's not like you could give it to somebody else. You can't play it again. There's no game to be played at the end of it. It's just that's the end of it. And it's $40. So $40, and you'll probably get 20 hours worth of enjoyment if you play it twice. Um, I have no problem with that. I know some people might feel a little bit annoyed that like they're buying a game that they can only play twice. Um, I definitely feel like we got our money's worth out of it. We're gonna play it again. My kids are obsessed. It's I don't know. It's just a really cool. I've never played anything like it, which is one of my favorite experiences. Um, and my kids and even my wife, like we have like inside jokes now. Like it's definitely like done what it's supposed to do with our family.
It sounds a little bit like Arthurian Knights that we did a review on, uh,
Mm-hmm.
except, with stickers, which is
Yeah.
the upgrade, which is better.
Mm-hmm.
Arthurian Knights would be better with stickers.
Yeah, everything's better with stickers. Honestly, like I was like kind of looking at this like, what if you made like a really like dark adult version of this? With like obviously it'd be like not like adult meaning like just like not for children
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
with
sure, sure.
like war and
Yeah,
fighting
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know, just like it would just be I don't know. I was like, this is really fun.
No,
Like if there was a really like heavy version of this, I could
oh,
see it
sure.
becoming
Yeah, no,
something that I really like.
no, I think I think we found a new, market. Well done, Matt. Let's do it.
Yeah, well, we're on the sticker craze.
Sticker
But yeah,
narratives.
highly recommend if you've got kids, like even my 6-year-old fully locked in, didn't like there's no teach. You just start saying, like, here, you have a choice to make, daughter. Which one do you want? And then she picks one, and then she gets to take the stickers out and put them on the board. It's great. Really fun. Very highly recommend. You got any other games on your brain?
No, no, not since the last. Was I on the last episode? Yeah,
I think so.
I haven't
Yeah.
played that much. I've been
Yeah.
dealing with some adulting, so adult away.
Which is a thing adults say for sure.
Yeah.
That means you're an adult if you're saying adulting. Been obsessed. This is the last thing I'll talk about because it's not necessarily board game related, but I Slay the Spire 2 came out
Oh,
about 2 weeks ago, and that has really taken up all my time when I'm not working. I loved Slay the Spire, the first one. This is a deck building roguelike game. It was sort of, I mean, if you don't know what it is, then I don't know what rock you've been living under or why you're listening to this podcast necessarily. But
for
Slay the
Paul.
Spire, yeah, for Paul is a masterpiece. One of my favorite games of all time. I'm not exaggerating, 500 hours maybe. I don't know. I played across many platforms. It's just what I put on when I'm on the toilet or bored or just don't know what else to play, and
Too
I just
much, too
always
much.
play it. Yeah,
Yep.
too much. But they finally came out with the sequel after 10 years. And it's, I don't know, better. And it's an early access, but if they said it was the finished game, I would probably have no notes. I'm just glad there's more coming, but I've already put 40 hours into it in 2 weeks, which is embarrassing. I've pretty much unlocked everything at this point. I think I have like 2 envelopes left to unlock, which are like some of the longer defeat a million bosses ones. But like basically, I've done everything in the game. I'm almost. I'll definitely get everything up to like Ascension 10, which is the max right now, pretty soon. But yeah, it's fantastic, and it's added multiplayer, which is a really cool thing because the Slay the Spire board game, which is fantastic and something we should probably review on this podcast as well at some point. That was the difference between the board game and the video game, was that the board game was multiplayer co-op,
Yep.
and it was really fun. It still is really fun. And then I loved that they decided to add that to Slay Aspire too. It's like, oh, they're being influenced by the board game. Now, it doesn't work exactly like the board game. You can't actually play cards on other players like you can in the board game, but you can use potions on them. And there are multiplayer cards that only exist when you're playing multiplayer that do things for other players. It's really fun. It's really cool. I don't know. It's definitely like the best implementation of a board game mechanic I think ever used in a video game. And so, if you ever were curious about it, it's a damn good time to get into Slay the Spire.
Cool.
Um, let's move on to our review of the day, Paul.
Let's do that, man.
Today,
Let's
so now
engage.
uh, use the Force, Paul.
You're a
Now,
wizard,
Paul,
Matt.
you guys, you guys don't know how lucky you are to have Paul on this Star Trek episode, because Paul is a bit of a Star Trek celebrity. Paul, tell us about your relationship with Star Trek and why I say you are a Star Trek celebrity.
That is an overstatement. I'm on another podcast called Star Trek Discovery Pod, and we talk about Star Trek, and I've basically lived Star Trek for, I don't know. I'm old now, so since I was young. So basically,
Is this would you say this is your favorite IP?
it is so given the choice of like living in an IP world, Star
Mm-hmm.
Trek is number 2, although it is probably my favorite. My number 1 will probably be Dungeons& and Dragons.
Okay.
Uh, but as far as like I say this all the time because this is how my brain works. I go like, there are only 3 choices for the future of humanity, and that is like Dune, Star Trek, or Mad Max. Those are the only 3. It's some version of that,
Right.
and given that, I think
Well, I
most
think Dune might be the sequel to Mad Max, because doesn't the world end in Dune and they had to like go to other planets?
like in Dune, uh like I feel like that's just feudalism or capitalism, or but basically it's like class dynamics, right? It's
Yeah.
someone
Okay.
like someone has a lot and other people have little, and we only focus on the people who get to shower.
Right. Right. Fair
uh
enough.
and Star Trek is techno communism, where like, hey, everyone gets everything they want, and now your problems are just you and your making.
Right.
and
Your
and Mad
emotional
Max
issues. Yeah.
and Mad Max is basically, we all fucked up.
Yeah,
we,
we chose the wrong timeline.
we shot the moon and we missed the moon, and here we are.
Right.
I think Star Trek is probably my favorite, although it's not where I would choose to, you know,
Yeah. But you've watched like everything Star Trek has ever made.
there are about 940 hours of content for Star Trek, and I've
Yeah.
watched 5,000 hours. Like I made that calculation.
You've watched all of it probably multiple times.
I've watched. I think there is one episode of Deep Space Nine that I refuse to watch just because it seems so cringe.
Right.
But other than that, I've watched everything in the more than you count on one hand aspect.
Right. So I always knew how much you loved Star Trek. Now I like Star Trek. I
Yeah, yeah.
actually like Star Trek quite a bit.
Star Trek
I
curious.
I was not I did not grow up caring about Star Trek. I was definitely, more on the Star Wars timeline, but like I liked it. I liked the movies. Like that I think Star Trek
Mhm.
4 was the first Star Trek I ever saw.
Whales.
Yeah, in the theater. I remember wanting to go see it in the theater.
Uh-huh.
And I loved that. I
Yeah.
thought that was like, and I knew nothing. That was like my
Sure,
first
sure.
entry point to like any of those characters. And I was like,
L-
this rules.
Yeah.
And I probably watched some of the Star Trek animated show too, because it was just on Saturday mornings probably
Sure,
when I
sure,
was
sure.
growing up. But yeah, that was pretty much all I knew. But I never really got into Next Generation. When Paramount did the sort of the reboot, like whatever it was, 7, 8 years ago, I definitely was watching Discovery. I think I've watched 2 seasons of Discovery. I've watched some Strange New Worlds. I watched the first season of the animated show. So I've seen, I
You
I
dabble.
know it well enough. I've seen all the movies,
Yeah, yeah.
obviously, at this point. But yes, I've dabbled, but it's not like I was like, oh, a Star Trek game. In fact, quite the opposite. I feel like whenever you hear like Star Trek IP, you're like, probably not going to be great. Or really, I feel that way about any IP, but I don't know. Something about Star Trek just often feels like those games, I don't know, are not great.
Wow. I remember like a few years ago, I was playing an app game, Star Trek Timelines, and it
Oh, I
had
remember you had a problem with that.
that's right. I had it, and the game is trash. Well, it's not trash, but like it is
Yeah.
definitely attention farming.
Yeah.
And that's here. I gotta push this dopamine button.
Yeah. Oh, I got to wait till tomorrow to come back to push the button. What a dumb game. Why did you get into that?
IP baby.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
uh,
Um, but yeah, it's not, it was definitely not the hallmark for me in terms of like, oh, new Star Trek game. That's definitely a get 100% buy. But games from Nigel Buckle and David Turksey kind of are must buy for me. They're both best known for making a game called Voidfall together. They also have, which is one of my favorites ever. They've also made something called Imperium Classics and Imperium Legends and Imperium Horizons, which is very much the exact same system as Star Trek Captain's Chair. We'll talk about the differences, but it is asymmetrical deck building. And I wonder if they'll have a name for this system. I don't, I feel like they should just call it the Imperium system, and
mm,
Star Trek Captain's Chair uses it just because that was the first. Um, but what it is, it's asymmetrical decks. And in the Imperium series, it's civilization themed. So I pick Mesopotamia, you
I pick
pick
Rome.
Japan, yeah, whatever it is. And our decks are highly asymmetrical. They're all about the different sort of famous parts of that you would think of for that faction. They play how you would imagine a traditional Civ would play, but what's cool about it is it's a deck building game, and we are taking our asymmetric decks and adding new cards to it from a common marketplace that we're both buying from. So then there's just generic civilization cards that are presumably better or helpful to help to enable our asymmetric decks to do what they want to do. Um, and so we are all fighting over this common market of cards to add to our decks to help us score points. And then at the end of the game, whoever has the most points wins. And um, it when I first heard about this, I was like, this is my favorite game ever. It plays to 4. I was like, a 4-player civilization deck building game. I couldn't be more in.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I bought Imperium Classics when it first came out.
Yeah, we
So
played it.
excited, learned it, and I was like, this is pretty heavy. Boy, wow, 4-player. It's going to be long, isn't it? Brought it to the table. It was interminably. It was a horrible experience at 3 and 4 players, and it actually annoyed me how bad it was for me at 3 or
Sure,
4
sure, sure.
players. I
Yeah.
mean, just it's such a heavy, intense game with so much reading and so much strategy that your turn can take 10 minutes easily,
Yeah.
just to figure out like the best possible thing you could do, et cetera, et cetera. That means that it's like 30 minutes before it's your turn again. And that's what genuinely happened. And look, it was a learning game. And it wasn't the only time I tried it. I tried it a few more times at 3 and 4 players, and it never really got much faster. I mean, it was, I'm not exaggerating, 3.5, 4 hours for like a 4-player game, just too much. And it was just boring. There was nothing to do on your turn because the card market was constantly churning. Um, Now, where the game did excel was solo. It had a beautiful solo mode. And in fact, that's sort of what it was for most people. I've never heard of people who love this game who play it regularly at 3 or 4 player. Do they exist? I'm sure they do. I've never met one. If you are one, let me know in the Discord. Love to hear about it. But I've never heard of those people. What the game is known for, what most of the reviews are, what most of the BGG forums are all about, is the solo play. It had a great AI in the game. David Turksey is very well known for his wonderful AIs. Um, this was one of the best, and it didn't matter how long your turns took because it was just you playing, and the system was great. But the game did not get played very much because it was just a solo game for me. I played it regularly as solo. I bought the expansions when they came out. I played them quite a bit. I thought Horizons was really interesting. They added a whole module in there called Trade Routes, which I thought actually was a step back and sort of made the game longer and fiddlier. But anyway, I was like, it just never became a thing I loved more than something I liked a lot. Along came Star Trek Captain's Chair. They announced they were doing what sounded to me like a reskinning of Imperium for Star Trek. Couldn't care less. My first reaction was like, okay, I don't like Star Trek more than Civilization themes. Like, I would prefer a Civilization theme.
But Star Treks are civilizations, Matt.
See, yeah, but I wasn't there yet. I was just thinking like, okay, but then the reviews started coming in, and I started hearing words like streamlined, and I started hearing words like faster and more interactive. Also, yeah, that was another famous thing about Imperium, was that like the interactivity was not interesting to me. It was a lot of sort of take that interactivity. Um, and anyway, the thing that excited me most about Star Trek Captain's Chair was a little number on the box that said 1 to 2 players. And I was like, they agree with me. This is not a 3 or 4 player game. They're not even pretending it is anymore. And just the fact that it could then be designed to be best at 1 or 2 players was very exciting to me. So I purchased it, and instantly, this was the game that I wished Imperium was. Now, some people will disagree. Some people will like Imperium more. Once we sort of get a little deeper into the review, I'll talk about what the exact differences are. If you're a person who only owns Imperium or a person who only owns Star Trek, curious about the other, I'll tell you all about what the various differences are. But for me, this was the perfect Imperium experience. At solo, it was better than I thought Imperium was, and at multiplayer, it was better than I thought Imperium was. It just
At 2-player.
basically, at 2-player. It was better at 2-player and at 1-player than Imperium was, and it just basically completely replaced it for me. Paul, tell me about your first experiences playing the game. When I pitched it to you, what you thought. You had tried Imperium before, and talk me through sort of your first few plays of the game.
So I remember it very vividly. Like because one of Matt's favorite things to do is to call me and say, Paul, like I got this new game. You're gonna love it. It's such a you game. And
I
so
like to call my shot with you.
it kind of like, it loses its effect a little bit because like of course everything he's going says that, like, he calls me, it's going to be that, and he goes, it's Star Trek based. Bing, Vulcan ears.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, it doesn't matter what it's going to be. I'm going to at least engage fully. So like, there was no resistance. I was like, oh, I'm gonna really just go in for it. And like, and then I get
Could
to
you
this
say resistance is futile?
whoa! And I set that up, and you slam dunk it. Phaser set the kill.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, so we get there, and you have a choice of all these various factions, and you get to play Picard, like captains basically. You get
Well, they're
Picard.
not they're not factions, they're captains.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So Picard or Cisco or Sela or all these various people, and I'm going like, oh, I will go with this person. He goes, no, no, like, it's hard enough, Paul. I'm going to give you Picard, the entry level Picard. I go,
Yeah,
you don't know
Picard
me.
and Sela are the two preferred beginner decks here. I'm holding them up if you're watching.
Oh,
On
that's not
YouTube
Sela.
right
That's
now.
that's the other. That's the
Oh,
Andorian.
sorry, not Sela. Shran. Sorry, Shran.
Yeah, Shran. Yeah, yeah.
Shran. Yeah.
Uh,
And I didn't. So I'll tell you who all the captains are in this deck. So there's Michael Burnham from Discovery, who I knew. Okay. Then there's Sela, who I didn't know. What is she from, Paul?
She's from Next Generation. She is a half Romulan, half human.
Okay.
From a different. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Then there's Shran. I didn't know
Mhm.
who Shran was. I never even seen that type of alien before.
Oh, like he is an Enterprise. When you
Okay.
get further enough, you'll see him.
Okay. Picard. Obviously, everyone knows Picard.
Yeah. Jean-Luc, engage.
Jean-Luc. Then there's Benjamin Sisko, who I had heard the name, but I had not watched his show. What is his show again?
Deep Space Nine. It is my favorite of the Star Treks.
Yes. Okay. And then there is Koloth, the Dahar Master, which is, I think, just sort of a generic.
Nope.
No, he's not. He's a
Koloth is
Klingon.
in two. He's in the original series, young, and in Deep Space Nine, he's old. So
Right. But he's not like a famous Klingon. He's not like
he's
a big named one.
No, he's one of the 3 named Klingons in the original series.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like Captain Kirk goes against the anyway.
Yeah, but it's not. There's no Kirk. There's no Spock.
Yet.
There's no right. There's no Khan yet. Right. So in this box when we first bought it. Okay. So anyway, yeah. Captains, continue.
And so like you're teaching me the rules, and it is not light. I've learned Imperium before, but it's been a while, and it's a lot of what do you call it? Do this, but not this, and here, and all I could do was smile because I'm engaging in the IP. I'm all these things that I love. I'm just engaging it in a way that ooh.
Yeah. I mean, there's hundreds of cards, and every card is a specific reference or a character or a ship or something that people who know a lot about Star Trek would be like, I can't believe there's a card for that.
And in all that upkeep and all the things that you're doing, just feel like you're getting to play with the thing that you want to play with. Does that make sense? So even
100%.
though I did very poorly on my first game, because I was trying to grok all the rules and how to go about it, I was like, oh, I see why this is thematic to not only the game but the IP. I see what's happening here. I go the integration of the IP and even the mechanics on some level is pretty solid.
Well, okay, so that's a great point. So I think now, if you were to ask me, I'm going to design a game. Do you want it to be a Civilization theme or a Star Trek theme? I'm picking Civilization theme. I love Civilization themed games. Sure. But I think this idea of an asymmetric deck and the box comes with a handful of them. I think it works better under this idea of a captain, especially if you're aware of the IP, even if you're not. Just the fact that you have this deck, and in this deck, you've got obviously the captain, but then you've got the first mate, and you've got all the different crew people are there. Then you've got the ship that they're on. Then you've got some of their most famous exploits or adventures they've been on. And this deck is almost like everything you could ever think of regarding this one character and all the people in the universe they deal with. To me, that's such a perfect way to build the game around these decks, wherein this deck is a cast of characters. It is the ship they live on. It is the weapons they've used. It's maybe some of the villains they fought against even, or, some of the funny little moments from their adventures. I just think that's such a better framing than Rome and the Colosseum and
Yeah,
the fighters and this. I mean, it's just, to me, it just works better. It's simpler and it's much more exciting and personal to look at their deck, and like you really feel like you are that captain, whereas I don't necessarily feel like Rome when, just because I play the Colosseum.
like I think you hit it there. Like I think the word is personal. It feels very connected because because Rome can mean a lot of things. China can mean a lot of things to a lot of people.
Yeah,
It's so expansive, but like this person, you know who they are, or at least even if you don't know this person, you know what they're about in in
yeah,
their team. And so I thought so it feels very what's the word, connected to me. I don't know if it's just because I'm such a Star Trek fan, but the
yeah.
fact I'm hearing you say that seems like like I think you put it better than I could have put it.
And even the theme comes across so well because it's clearly like my ship and my crew versus your ship and your crew. And it's like, and we're not necessarily enemies, but we are out in the galaxy trying to get glory, trying to get victory points to see who can have the greatest adventure that's worth the most points at the end, or, is
Sure,
clearly the best captain and the best ship out there. um that's a really cool, just sort of like, to me, that just is a little more thematic than like
sure,
I'm Russia, you're Greece, like
sure. No,
who won.
it's less abstract.
It is to me, yeah. Especially because there's actually planets that we're landing on, which we'll get into later and fighting over, and that's a big part of the interactivity. All right, so what was your experience with Imperium in the past? Do you remember playing it? Do you remember anything
I
about
do. I
it? What
remember,
your reaction was?
I remember it being like I also like a good more than civilization, like asymmetry.
Yeah.
I like the idea of like, oh, everyone has their own specific characteristics, and it's up to you to leverage those characteristics in your play style, blah 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 blah. So, and I remember that, like, I remember it being clumsy, no, as or I'm playing it clumsy because
Hmm.
the rules weren't all coalescing for me. They weren't gelling for me in a way that I felt like, oh, this is a very interesting game. And then I actually thought about that when we are playing. What was that? Soothsayers,
Hmm.
where like Soothsayers revealed itself very quickly, and it goes, oh, I know why I'm doing all these things. And interestingly enough, it didn't require theme. Like I don't have this great love for tarot and fate markers, but
Right.
like the act of playing you know was fun because like it got to where it was real quick.
Yeah.
Where I didn't if I from my recollection, I don't remember Imperium being that way. I remember like, oh, I'm still really trying to figure it out to try to see what I'm trying to do. Like even like what's my goal in in Imperium? I can't even remember that.
Yeah.
Am I trying to just get more cards to get more points? What do the points represent? All these things like were not
Hmm.
clear to me.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, let's talk about the weight then, because this is, I would say, hands down the heaviest deck builder that I've ever played, and I'm pretty sure it's the heaviest deck builder I could think of, or even find. Now, this is not a medium weight game. This is not even a medium heavy game. I would say this is on the heavy end of heavy games. Now, BGG gives it a 4.04. That feels about right. Anything over a 4 is always a beast.
mhm.
And this game is a massive beast. It's a 45-minute teach, I'd say. I
Yeah,
think you'll be lucky to get it done in that time. Actually, it's a really involved. Doesn't play like anything else. This is heavier than Mage Knight. Absolutely. Like if you've learned Mage Knight and you're like that was one of the hardest things I've ever learned, I would say this is not a small step up in difficulty. Even I think this is now. Personally, I love that. Like I
Mhm.
love learning
The
complex
study.
systems. I enjoy struggling with a rule book. That's maybe a strange thing about me, but that's not a negative for me. But it is something to know that like, and that's why, honestly, that's why Imperium was a solo game for most people, I think, is because it's like, just to teach this to somebody is a beast. And then let alone like for them to grok it enough to be comfortable playing, it will take many, many, many reps, wherein I can just get those reps for myself. I don't have to worry about teaching somebody else. I don't have to worry about making sure to have a partner that's consistent that I can keep playing with so they can remember all the little tiny fiddly rules every time we sit down. Um, but I do feel like this game, while not less heavy at all, or even a shorter teach, I still feel like this is as much of a burden to learn. I do feel like there is, uh, because the game plays faster than Imperium, and because it is slightly more streamlined in different ways, I do feel like this is an easier game to get to the table with another person than Imperium. And where my entire experience of Imperium outside of solo was, this game is too long to play with other people. It's way too long between my turns. I have not felt that way playing it two player with Paul. And Paul and I probably played about 10 times now. We've played quite a bit on and off since it came out last year. Um, the games are not short though. The games
They were not
are
short.
their games are 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's 2 hour 2 player game, which is a wonderful length of a 2 player game for me. Um, but it's not short by any stretch, and it will always be about 2 hours. I don't think you could get it down too much faster. I mean, if we memorized the entire card pool and like just knew them by image and didn't have to read them, maybe it gets down to 90 minutes. But I still there's just a lot of choices to make, and your turn is long. But like
Mhm.
while you're taking your long turn, I have a billion things to consider and a handful of cards, and I'm just as busy worrying
Engaged.
about what you're doing and engaged with what I'm excited to do next. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Um.
I found the same way.
So I'm trying to figure out. So okay, let's talk about the interactivity. So
Uh-huh.
would you class this as multiplayer solitaire?
It's a really tricky thing because I
Mm-hmm.
am infamous for not loving multiplayer solitaire, but I love two things that I famously proclaim. Like, I don't really love deck builders, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't like multiplayer solitaire. And for all of it, this is kind of both.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, uh, and again, like, I can look at this and say, why do I enjoy it so much versus why do I not give that kind of grace to another game? And I think what it comes down to is uh, the deck building is like sort of optional. Like,
Mm,
there are ways to win without having to buy a bunch of new cards, and the
mm,
cards that you do get are like, you'll every time you go through your deck, you'll have to reshuffle, but you'll get a new card.
right.
But they're going to be the same cards specific to your symmetry,
Right.
your asymmetry. So, like, uh, so it's not required for me to, like, oh, I need to get the Laxian because uh blah 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 blah. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's Talaxian. I pronounced it wrong. I apologize. Uh, uh, and the solitaire, for all of it, I think that's actually the point.
Hmm.
Does that make
Hmm.
sense? Like,
I don't know. Keep going.
like the point isn't about me trying to, like, phaser you and take away your glory, in as much as it is about me trying to find a way to make the best engine for me to make my glory.
Right. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's and normally I'm not about that, but thematically, like, not every civilization in Star Trek is about, like, conquest and, like, a zero sum game.
Mm-hmm.
So they all play very differently, and there will be some friction where we rub into each other. But
Mm-hmm.
in some ways, you're just trying your deck. You're trying to be the best you can be.
Yeah.
Does that make
Well,
sense?
100%. And to me, this is the Street Fighter metaphor. So there are multiple
Yes.
types of asymmetry. My favorite type of asymmetry is Street Fighter 2 asymmetry. So what does that mean? It means that I nobody is good at Street Fighter, right? Like that doesn't mean the same thing as being good at Chun Li or
Mhm.
good at Guile. Like I am good at Chun Li. I can't play anyone else. Like I will fail with all others, but you give me Chun Li and I know her so well. I know all of her moves. I know exactly how to play her. I know how to counter everybody's things. I'm good at Chun-Li. That's all I know. But if I wanted to get good at Guile, that's a new game. That's a different game.
Yep.
Like I have to
You
start
go
from
back
scratch.
100%.
Right. I love that. That to me is just instantly a huge amount of replayability anytime I buy a game. If something has factions where it's like each faction is a game, like that's why I really like Root. Like I really like the idea of like, to use
True
video game
asymmetry.
terms, to use video game terms, maining somebody. Like who do like that was always a Street Fighter thing. Who do you main? Like I was a Chun-Li main. That just means like I've dedicated all my time to this person. I'm pretty good with them. That's what the game is to me. And this has that more than any other asymmetrical game I've ever played. And Imperium had it. It was my favorite thing about it. So it's like in Imperium or in Captain's Chair, when you pick a nation or a captain, you have their deck, which is like their starting deck. But then you also have sort of their level up deck. And like Paul was saying, every time you shuffle your deck, you add one of these cards to your deck. Now, these cards are usually better than the cards in your deck. They're upgrades. They're like leveling up, statting up, things like that. And half of that deck is random. Okay, so half of that deck is just going to be you shuffle up. It's called your reserve deck in Star Trek. I forget what it's called in Imperium. Might be called reserve also. You shuffle up your reserve deck, and then you put that on top of your development deck. These are separate from your starting cards, your initial deck. And every time you shuffle your deck, you add one of these reserve cards into it. When you've gone through all your reserve cards, you've now hit your development deck, but those don't come in random. Those are a deck of cards you can pick up. And now every time you shuffle your deck, you decide what you're adding from the development deck into your hand. And you usually have to pay for them with resources or have met some sort of requirement to add them. So there is a huge, like Paul was saying, yes, the market can be very important. It can help you facilitate your goals, but getting through your deck and getting to the sort of level up cards is usually your main goal. It's like, how do I do that efficiently? How do I get through my deck as quick as possible, as many times as I can? How do I buy the cards from the open market that will help, staunch the bleeding that I'm going to be doing until I'm strong enough to really get an engine going and win.
Yeah.
And also, like, yeah, there are certain cards that will also, are maybe really good for my opponent. And so I'm playing a denial game as well. But there are so many different strategies and paths just to learn. Like, it's sort of like maybe why I also love Slay the Spire. Like each character in Slay the Spire has many different paths that you can play that could be a successful deck. And I think with each one of these captains, there's also multiple routes you can go. And like I was saying to Paul the other night, like the optimal way for me to play this is to like come into the game with a plan. Come in like, okay, this is the game I want to play. I want to get through my reserve, and then I'm going to buy this development card first, and that's going to lead to this one, that's going to lead to that one, and I have this general plan. Like I'm coming in with a strategy before we've even started playing. And then it's like, okay, what market cards are available that are going to help facilitate that strategy to get me there as quick as possible? Or am I going to have to pivot because some other amazing market cards have come up that now I need a plan B because, this is such a great route to go. It just makes it like this sort of tech tree of decisions that you're making of like, that you really start like, this is a game where I recommend you pick one character and just play that character for like 10 games. Like, because that's when the game really opens up, I think, is when you start like maining a captain and really knowing their deck, knowing their reserve deck, knowing the development deck, having a plan. And then you start just getting really used to the market cards. And then you could branch out. So, I mean, like the amount of variability in this game to me is off the charts. The amount of play in it, like each captain is almost a game unto itself to learn.
Word.
Does that?
No,
Yeah. I mean, like,
you know what it reminds me, like, in some ways it reminds me of Netrunner. Even though, like, like not so much that like your corporation and like hacker, but like the fact how asymmetrical your factions can be.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then like, part of that is also getting to know the matchups. Like, I could have a plan with Picard, but if I'm playing against Koloth, who has a very aggressive, attacky kind of thing, like I have to change my plan about what planets I'm going to be getting to. Okay, so back to the interactivity thing that we were talking about a second ago. So in Imperium, the interactivity was mainly these sort of attack cards, which did what you'd expect with attack cards. They, mess with other people's tableau, they steal their resources, things like that. In Captain's Chair, there's a completely new interactivity point, which are these planets that we are fighting over. And it's literally like a row of cards in between both of our setups, both of our tableaus. And we are taking these ship standees. This game also has a better table presence than Imperium. They have these beautiful ship standees for every single ship in the game. And you're sending these ships out to planets to try to get control of them. And you need a certain amount of ships and a certain amount of away teams you have to beam to these planets in order to gain control of them. If you have a certain amount of necessary control at the beginning of your turn, you take control of that planet and it now goes into your tableau. But your opponent knows that some of these planets, and these planets are not balanced, which on purpose, like some are better than others. And it's like, do you want to go for the easy planet that you know you can get, or do you want to stop your opponent from getting this really strong planet? And then you end up in this very interactive battle over this planet where you're removing tokens, placing tokens, fighting over it, deciding how many resources you're going to, how many cards and resources you're going to spend trying to win this. That to me is a really fun level of interactivity in the game that was not there in Imperium. And in fact, makes a very exciting, like, quote unquote, flop every time you play the game to see the planets that are out there, to see what's worth fighting over. And that can totally shift your priorities and your strategy just based on sort of what planets come out throughout the game. How do you
Yep.
feel about that aspect of the game?
I mean, it's absolutely true. Like, like I got that's just the facts of the game. Like uh like one of the things that I'll add is I generally like to play a denial game.
Mm-hmm.
So I generally like, especially with this sort of thing, I would like attack cards or something that I'm more prone to use than most people in our group.
Mm-hmm.
And in this game, like, it feels completely a thing you can do and completely unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
This to stymie your engine is not something that I'm interested in as much as I am like interested in like maximizing my own realization of the awesomeness of my captain and their crew.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so it's a it's an interest. Like I'm always impressed when when a game makes me reconsider something that I think is pretty like pillar for me. So
Mm-hmm.
like for a game to go like, oh, no, I want to play the solitaire aspect, the multiplayer solitaire. Like that is, I'm just very impressed. It's
Yeah.
just like I was like, oh wow, like here I am sitting in quiet with Matt, and then oh, it's his turn. Okay, I'm looking at my cards. Oh, it's my turn. I'm looking at my card. It's just I'm having the best time.
Yeah. And yes, like if you are allergic to multiplayer solitaire, you are gonna really notice it in this game because But okay, so here's the way that it's different from Imperium and how I think it's less of multiplayer solitaire. In that, in Imperium, if I remember correctly, the game ends when somebody gets to the end of their development deck, or sort of. So the games can have a very strict long timer, and that if players aren't sort of racing that, the game can go on interminably long. Captain's Chair has a fixed timer. Okay, you have these cards, a little deck of cards, star date cards they're called, and each star date card has a number on it of how many victory points you're supposed to put on it. And every turn, at the end of your turn, someone has to take a victory point off of that card and put it somewhere on the market, potentially putting it on a card that their opponent might take. So you have to be injecting victory points into the market every round, whether you want to or not. So either putting them on a card that you hope you get on your turn, or incentivizing your opponent to take a card they may not have considered, purely because there's points on it. But
And
this is the go ahead.
I also and like that base is the slowest it will go.
That's the
Like if
slowest, exactly.
because you can only accelerate. So if you play a card that says grab a glory, you grab it from that timer. You don't grab
Hmm.
it from the open stack. So like so the supply. So it
That's
can
right.
only go faster.
That's right. So, but even there is no slowest a game can go in Imperium. It can go forever if nobody's like playing ending the game. Like this has a timer. No matter what happens, no matter how slow your opponent decides to play, they will be forced to take one token off of this. And when you get to the bottom of a card, you go to the next one, you put some more on there. And then when you get to the bottom of that deck of cards, that's the end of the game. So the game has a fixed ending. It also has an alternate victory condition, which the original had as well, which I think is really fun and cool. Do games often end like this? No, but there are decks that are built around it. And I think with more experience, it can happen more often. So there's in Imperium, it's called Unrest. In Captain's Chair, it's called Incident deck. But it's basically bad cards that get added to your deck by your opponents. So your opponent, sometimes a card will give it to yourself. Like, to play this card, you must take an incident, sort of like an extra cost. And it's basically like a bad card that clogs up your deck. But unlike in Imperium, those incident cards do something good also. So you may actually find that that incident card is something you want to hold on to for a little bit because it's useful. Whereas in Imperium, they were just bad. They just clogged your deck. I do like that there's an asymmetric incident deck here, but also that's another way to end the game. If that incident deck ever goes empty, the game immediately ends and victory points are now irrelevant. Whoever has the least incident cards in their deck wins, which I think is really an exciting bit of tension added to the game because it's always there. Even if that incident deck is only halfway taken, your eye is on it. You're going, oh boy, if I take 2 this turn because I want to play these cards that are really valuable that are going to make me take incident. Boy, if Paul then sees that, notices there's only 3 left, he might do the math and realize I have 7 in my deck and he has 2. And if he takes those 3, I lose. So you're always having to do this incident deck math of like, I actually can't take more because I'll have more than half. And if Paul finds a way to ramp through that deck, he will guarantee victory. So like, you really have to be careful with that. It also gives an alternate way for the game to be over pretty quickly too. And it's just a really fun bit of tension. And the fact that the asymmetric incident deck has a benefit as well is just to me like a huge design boon that wasn't there in the original as well.
I know, that's good.
Okay, let's go over a few different points throughout the game, and then I'll also talk about sort of how they're different from Imperium as well. So Imperium, you were only allowed to shuffle your deck once per turn, meaning you could only ever add one of those leveled up awesome asymmetric cards to your deck once per turn. In Star Trek, there's no limit to it. If you find a way to boost through your deck multiple times, you can add multiple cards. To me, that is a much more creative and fun way. There's just less restrictions in the design in this version. There's more of an openness of like, be creative, figure out a path. We're not going to stop you. If you break something, good for you, have fun. Whereas in Imperium, it always felt like they were slowing me down, making sure I couldn't do certain things. Also, like, the other main area is in Imperium. So a lot of like powers on your cards are sort of Magic the Gathering style tap to exhaust to use. In Imperium, you had a limit of cards you could tap, and it was by these little exhaust tokens. You could only exhaust 3 or 4 cards on the turn, meaning even if you had 8 cards in your tableau that could all tap and do cool things, you could only use half of them or less than half of them every turn. So you had to decide which ones to use. In this game, unlimited. If you've got 20 tap to use cards in your tableau, you get to use them all every turn. Again, less restrictive, more fun, more open to creativity. It's just everything about this just feels like they took the handcuffs off and we're just like, oh no, we figured out the design now. You can't break it. Have fun. You don't have to constantly be like, we had to slow you down here because some of these decks are just too good if we allow you to do X, Y, and Z. That to me is really fun. One thing that Imperium has that Star Trek doesn't have, I don't know if you remember, Paul, but there was this, you start the game in the barbarian era of every civilization.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot
And
about
then
that.
at a certain, and half of your cards are like cards that can only be used in the barbarian phase, and half of them are cards that can only be used, I think it's called the empire phase. And so instead of having first mates, which we'll get into in a second, or they're not called first mates, what are they called? Deck.
On
What are
duty
the
officer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Instead of having those, you had this sort of mechanic, which is at a certain point of the game, you would level up from barbarian to empire, but then all those barbarian cards were kind of dead. You can't play them anymore. And now you were only focused on Imperium cards. It was cool. I have nothing negative to say about that. I always thought it was fun. But this game has a slightly different version of that, wherein in your deck you have a handful of I keep wanting to call them first mate, but they're not called first mate. You have a handful of, what did you just call them a second ago that I forgot the
On
name
duty
of already?
officer, but they're just people, but they can be
Yeah,
promoted to on duty officer.
right. So this then becomes like an asymmetric addition to your captain. And your deck has multiple of them. So you're even just at the beginning of the game, you're like, all right, which, and they define your strategy. So it's like, oh, first, like which, first mate am I going to have, along with this captain this turn? It's almost like picking like the sidekick for your main character. And they change the way you play dramatically because they're going to have these passive ongoing cool
It's not
abilities.
sort of. It's exactly that. Is picking the sidekick for your main character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that they have huge rule breaking powers that
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, maybe for the half the game I'll use this person. And for the other half of the game, I'm going to fire them and get somebody else in there because I need to focus on this
So,
strategy. Um, that is really cool. That is not in Imperium. And while I like the Barbarian Empire thing, it also had its downsides. Like I said, it's sort of frustrating to have, figure out how you're going to call all these useless barbarian cards at a certain point in the game. Whereas this just has this flexibility of like, okay, I'm going to, have a completely different sort of, deck hand throughout different parts of the game and decide when I want to use them. Also, cards in Imperium do one thing. So
mhm.
they'll have an action on it. You either do that action or you don't. One of the and I'll say there's a negative here as well. Every single card in Star Trek has like 4 actions on it, and you can usually only do one. So cards are, I won't say they're multi-use, but they have multi-purpose. So like a card will have a passive ability that only works if it's your first mate. A card will have a reaction ability that only works if it's a card in
You
your
put.
tableau.
Yep.
A card will have a play activity that only happens if you play it as like a one-time use. And so the downside being that there's a shit ton of text on these cards. There's a lot to read through. You can't just at a glance go like, I know what this card does. Like there's, you have to know that, which is also the Street Fighter aspect. Like just pick
Mhm.
one deck and play that for a while. So you're not constantly reading every card in your deck 1,000 times. But there are multiple actions on each card and multiple uses and multiple sort of paths for victory with each of these cards as well that can like totally change the way you play them. That to me is really exciting and fun as well. Um, and then I think sort of the last, oh, here, I'll let you talk about this one, the missions and quests that each captain has. Can you talk a little bit about those, Paul?
Sure. Like what we have are like we have 3 tracks. We have like a science track, a political track, and a warrior track. So
Right.
blue,
Each
yellow.
each each captain has a piece of cardboard that's almost like a board that is
Mhm.
nothing comparable in Imperium, wherein you are tracking 3 different stats. That's right. So like military, science, and I don't
Politics
know, like
probably.
yeah, something like that. All right,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Anyway, so throughout the, you'll as you're playing your cards, uh, you'll be wanting to maneuver these tracks, go up these tracks because uh, each track, and it's different for each captain, has a multiplier. And at the end of the game, uh, you'll count up like a certain the type of cards that you've gotten and use that multiplier to score points. So like you have like 4 science cards and your multiplier is at 5. Congratulations, that's 20 points. That's a big
It's a
deal.
lot.
Well done. Well done. Uh, and so and and then and then you go eat down each track. The catch
That could be
is,
a lot of your end game points though, right?
yeah, 100%. Especially if
Yeah.
you're not working on getting like in-game glory. This might be the way
Hmm.
you go about doing it.
Right.
Uh, the caveat is, in order to unlock this ability to use the multiplier, the captain needs to, you as the player need to have done one of the quests that the captain is required to do. There are 2 sides. So one is like a more generic quest, and the other one on the other side, usually there are 3
There are
quests,
3. Yeah.
and each quest is worth a point, and you only have to do one. But if you don't do any, congratulations, all those multipliers mean nothing.
Yeah, your
And
multiplier is 0.
and they're usually tailored to your captain as to what they need to do. For example, I played Burnham the last time, and it was to say, oh, get this type of creature, get this type of science, and 2 incidences on your ship,
Yeah.
and that wound up being a certain type that worked out poorly for me because I didn't understand how to play my character very well.
Yeah.
But
Well, Burnham is also the most complicated in the game. Yeah.
uh, but in the end, like ultimately, it winds up being you have a mission, you have mission or missions, and you have tracks. In order to get the end game scoring, you have to solve these missions, and the missions you kind of wanted to because like there's also oftentimes an in game reward that is worthwhile. They're always
Right.
worthwhile.
Yeah. So, and I love these missions. I think they're really fun. This is also something that, gives you a bit of direction. And
Hundred
like,
percent
you have to do one of them, but also like they're not easy. They're going to take like half your game,
resources.
maybe a third
Yeah,
of your game, like a lot of attention. Like, and they're also really fun and thematic. Like, one of Picard's is like, he has to have 6 different races on his ship. He has to like have a really,
because
a
diversity, baby.
diverse cast of people on his ship. So you're like,
DEI.
yeah, you want to make sure you've got like different types of aliens on your ship. And like, that's really fun and like gives you a whole strategy to play. And like, okay, now I'm like I'm really interested in the market. What's coming out? I'm digging for certain different, like, oh shoot, I don't have a Vulcan yet. Like that should be an easy one to get. I'm going to chase after that. And each captain has 3 different of these missions. You have to do one per game. They give you a great amount of railroading in your early game to like, this is what I'm going for. And then usually those missions usually also tie in really nicely with different strategies in the game too. Cause like Paul said, they'll give you a huge influx of resources when you complete them, or allow you sometimes to even jump further ahead in your reserve or development decks, or do some cool things like that to sort of like speed your game up. But I think those missions are really fun. They really give you something to shoot for, and they add also to the variability, which is sort of the name of the
Yeah.
game I keep going back to here.
Yeah, like one of the things that like almost all of them have is like you do this and you get what's it? It's not it's the encounter deck. Like
Hmm.
like so there's another type of deck that is in the game, and basically this is kind of the tent pole landmarks of Star Trek culture in there. Like
Yeah.
here's this one item that is like, oh, I remember that episode. This was so big, it's so important. It's rule changing, blah blah blah, kind of thing, and you work so hard to get to that point. It
Hmm.
feels so good in your hand, and they're very powerful too.
Yeah. So like, yeah, this is one of the main ways to win the game is to get access to this deck. And in this deck are either insanely powerful cards that are like 10 times more powerful than your average card, or just a huge bomb of endgame victory points. But either way, you're going to need a few of them to be competitive in the game. And so, yes, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, no, and so it's just one of those things. Like uh, there's always I'm always discovering something. Like this last time we played, you got the Horta, and you just kept on getting extra dilithium,
Yeah.
and it's going like,
I had,
oh
I
my.
had, I had more resources than I could spend.
And I was like, "Oh my god, that is so." It's so funny too because like it's so thematic to the show, and at the same time so infuriating for you to have.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
it's just like I'm just so again so impressed with the synthesis of the theme, the IP, and the gameplay. It's really marvelous.
Yeah, and if it sounds like there's a lot of systems in this game, there are a lot of systems in
Mhm.
this game.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we keep coming up with entire new things that I feel like I could talk about for 20 minutes. Like, we barely, like you said, talked about the 3 different tracks that you're racing up
Mhm.
on to get multipliers on. And those are asymmetric as well. So, like, every different captain has different places where those multipliers are, and how quickly and how high they go even. Um, there's a lot here. It's an extremely heavy, extremely complicated game. I do not use the word extremely there lightly. This is at the high end of complicated fiddliness, a million rules. This is not a game you want to play twice a year because you will have to read the whole rule
Relearn.
book again to remember
Like
it. You'll have to
we
relearn it.
we took off like 4 months, and like our first game was rough.
Yeah,
Like
it was
like
rough.
we had to read, like I watched tutorial and again, and then we played, and I was like, oh, what do I do again? And it wasn't that I didn't understand the rules. The rules themselves you could probably teach in probably a half hour. That's what the video was.
Hmm.
Uh, but what you don't understand is like the interactivity between all the cards and your play is
Yeah.
so high that you have to consider so much that
Yeah.
like, you know, that it will take a while.
Yeah. It's an AP nightmare. Absolutely. Um, but like, you know, like I love the Imperium as a solo game, and I adore this as a solo game. I like this more as a two-player game. Like, you
Mm,
know, and I think not many people would say that about Imperium, that they like the multiplayer aspect of it more than the solo aspect. Is this still a solo game worth owning if you're only going to play it solo? 2000%. It is easily one of the best solo games on the market, in my opinion. But is it also like maybe better and definitely just as good at two? 100%. Really highly recommend. Like, this is the perfect sweet spot of a two player game to me. I want my two-player games to be 2 to 3 hours long. I want them to be full of crunchy choices. I want it to be addictive, where I want to keep playing and trying new things. I want to stick with one opponent and we both learn the game really well. Like, this is an ideal type of game for that. It reminds me a bit of like War of the Ring, as
mm.
like, this is, you know, this is
Sure,
a
sure, yeah.
game night event. I'm not inviting a friend over to play for 30 minutes and play a little bar game. This is the activity of the evening, is
Yeah,
we
no.
are playing War of the Ring or we are playing Captain's Chair. Um, and we're excited to play every time we play because we can try different strategies, we can try different characters. You know, it's going to unfold differently every time, and we're both going to be getting better and progressing at the game in general as we go. Um, and it becomes a really fun, almost like competitive card feel, where it's like, I'm not going against your Sela again, like you need to, or Sela again, you need to
Mm.
pick somebody different, because like I'm sick of losing to that. Like, or you know what, no, I've been thinking all week about a new way to try to combat this thing Sela keeps
Sure.
doing.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
sure.
I think I found it in this deck. Like, there is that sort of competitive card game feel that this game gives you too.
Like, it's so interesting to me. So, like, it's because, like, I'm biased, right? Because 'Cause I'm so invested in the IP. The fact that you are, like, basically Star Trek curious is probably
Yeah.
and that you're loving this, makes me feel like, "Oh, this is a great game," and it just happens to have the IP that I love.
Well,
It's
yeah, that's why I think this it's so great having you on this review, is because like people can hear how much you love Star Trek, how much you
mm,
know about it. Like, what's fun is also playing against you, because I'm constantly being like, what does this card mean? And you like tell me the story of the episode, or that thing happened, or
yeah.
like, you know, who this weird character is, like, you know, all that stuff, and that's fun to hear. But also, like, I don't have that connection with the IP. I prefer the IP of the other game more, and I feel like I'm able to express to you in a very unbiased way that I think this game mechanically improves on the other one in every way. And it actually
Well,
made me like the IP more. Like, it actually made me want to learn more about Star Trek, because I enjoy this game so much that I wanted to get as much out of it as I could. So
that's how
I
I
ended up watching like 2 seasons of Enterprise, uh, just to like learn more about the lore of the world. And like,
well
yeah, it's really fun.
So, like, it's what I say about music videos. Like, a successful music video makes it so that you want to listen to the song more. Whereas, like, a music video that fails goes like, "Ah, I used to like that song, but after seeing that video, yeah." So,
Yeah.
in this way, like, yeah, I'm glad that it's doing that for you. It's, you know,
Yeah, no. It's the first thing that's actually made me feel like I love the IP, and like actually and like care about Star Trek in a way I probably didn't before.
oh, like, because you're a
Um,
wizard, Harry.
I'm a wizard, Harry. Like, but also, you know, why are we doing this review a year after the game came out? Well, because I think this is a really good time to get into the game. It's been sold out for a very long time and has recently come back in stock. But the reason it's back in stock is because the next wave of Star Trek Captain's Chair games is coming out. We are getting a game called To Boldly Go, Star Trek Captain's Chair. And this is a standalone box, much like the box you can buy right now. And it has James T. Kirk in it. It has Khan. It has Philippa Georgiou. It has Rebner, the Packled Commander. Don't know who that is. From Lower Decks, it says. Um, it has 6 new commanders in there, um, which is very exciting and a very fun time to get into the game. We will now be doubling the amount. But then they also released another box called Second Contact Content. Second Contact. Second Content is funny. Which has 2 new captains, Carol Freeman and Christopher Pike. I actually knew who both of those were. But it also has new common market cards that can be used with both games.
Love it.
So it's going to expand the common card pool and add some new captains. And the other one is going to give you an entirely different card pool and 6 new captains. So we're about to have 14 captains, 2 entirely separate market decks, and new cards to add to either of those market decks. That's a lot of game.
Yeah. So, I feel like this is kind of like the synthesis of all my card playing games, because there was a while where we were playing Game of Thrones, right? And this
Yeah,
has that aspect where,
obsessively.
yeah, this has that aspect of like, oh, here's my faction, I'm a Tyrell, blah blah blah. Anyway,
Yep.
so it's all making me smile, like basically, oh, this like these 2 decades I've devoted to this hobby is all kind of coalescing.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm excited that there's more Star Trek coming out. I'm gonna quadruple down on playing this with you as much as possible.
Love it, love it.
There's a pretty good implementation too on Tabletop Simulator in case you have a friend who doesn't live as close to you as Paul lives to me, or it's just even Paul and I might use it because it's easier to get games in when you're at home on your computer. But yeah, Star Trek Captain's Chair gets a huge recommendation from me. I think I've illustrated the reasons why I prefer it over Imperium. I still understand if you love Imperium more. I still own it. I think there is a case for owning both, although it's I wouldn't say to buy both. If you already have one, I would consider maybe getting the other one. But if you have neither, I think Star Trek Captain's Chair is just a clear improvement in almost every way. Even if you're like me and are only Star Trek curious.
Yeah.
If you hate Star Trek, I don't know. But if you really love mechanics and care less about the theme, sort of like I do, I think either way, it's going to work for you.
I don't like. I don't love. Do you remember playing Forbidden Stars? Like
Yes, of
I
course.
had no like real connection to.
Warhammer, yeah,
Yeah,
40K.
yeah, not at
Yeah,
all. But like, but I play, Forbidden Stars any day. Like, like it's a good game.
yeah,
And I can only imagine people who play Warhammer and Euros to play, you know, Forbidden Stars and go, oh my god, it's all the things that I like about this with
yeah,
in this format. So I like hearing you describe that the game is good. Really makes me give it more of a like normally I try not to push anything Star Trek because
yeah,
I'm so biased.
yeah. If
Like
even if the game was bad, you wouldn't necessarily know it.
like when we're playing timelines, like when I was playing timeline, I wouldn't go, oh, you need to get this app, Matt, like and you need to like stay up, devote your life to pushing a button like at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
and then like but
Wait, you really did set an alarm once so that you could press the button, didn't you?
no, you're saying that wrong, Matt. The once is redundant. It's not once.
You did it, man. That is so sad. You deserve shame for that.
That's where I was in my life.
I love
Like
it. I love it.
I was literally like a matrix
You're
battery.
just you're just a flawed man like all of us, Paul. You're just
like
out
I
here. You're not perfect. You put your
I'm
pants on one leg or the other.
that's
You can
right.
still get addicted to dumb games too.
Yeah, it's okay. Like I'm not above you all.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. I'm not a Borg yet.
Yeah. It's good to know. It's good to be reminded of that sometimes. Even Paul, the future
Even
star
Paul.
of Traitors, makes mistakes.
That's right. Fair.
Well, I feel like we've said enough about Star
Yeah,
Trek. Clearly,
no.
we
Like
both
I
we
think
both dig it.
I think the game's all right. I think it's okay. It's
Yeah, it's all we're going to be playing when the new box comes out for a little bit. So, yeah, maybe we can stream a game or two of it also and show
oh yeah,
people.
sounds great. That's great.
Okay. All right, word.
Okay.
All right. Well, 90 minutes. Shall we end it there?
Yeah, I think that's good. Thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, man, it was fun. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Peace.
Make some friends with games or games with friends.
Yeah, we don't even bother anymore.
Bye everyone.